Mason and this is Savannah, and we're the Kents. This is our little boy Brooks, and we got married in September of 2020, and met and just fell in love and wanted to start a family. Like, we had a huge burden on our heart to start a family and to fill our table, and so we ended up getting pregnant, and which was a great and awesome experience in itself. But unfortunately, we lost our son in June of 2021. One important aspect about our story is that Savannah actually had a liver transplant 10 years ago.
So I was actually born with biliary atresia. I had my first surgery at 5 weeks old, and it was called the Kasai procedure. So I lived off and on my whole life sick and battling liver infections and so forth. And then my senior year of high school, I was the sickest that I've ever been. I actually had something called hepatic encephalopathy, so I had bilateral brain damage due to elevated liver enzymes and toxins. And so ultimately they said I needed to have a liver transplant. With me having a transplant nearly 10 years ago, I knew there was that possibility I may not be able to get pregnant. And so I met with like a high risk doctor, and they said, you know, it may take a while, but if it does, we're going to work through this together. I got pregnant in a month of trying. So of course we were so excited. Like, we were overjoyed. Okay, God answered this prayer for us. And so everything was going great. And whenever I went in to have a 17-week like high risk ultrasound to find out that our son was terminal, it was just absolutely devastating. Everything had gone so well in our pregnancy until I was about 14 weeks. And it honestly, it caught us off guard out of nowhere. There was nothing we could do. And that was the most heartbreaking part.
And through that, we found out that it was a better idea and better for us and better for Savannah, I should say medically, for us to figure out a different way to have another baby. And so the idea of surrogacy came about, and specifically having a gestational carrier carry our baby. And so we were very fortunate that we have wonderful friends, William and Olivia Lustig, and Olivia actually volunteered herself to carry our baby Brooks.
So we have 3 kids of our own, but it wasn't easy for us. We kind of know the Kent's heartbreak with child loss. We had our first child in 2015, and then we got pregnant about 8 months later with our second child, and we lost that baby around 8 weeks. And then after that, we had another loss, and then just infertility for a couple of years after that. But then our rainbow baby, Roslyn, came in 2018. And then very shortly after that, our last child, Tate, came. So we know we've been through everything when it comes to child loss and pregnancy. So I've always tried to look for opportunities to kind of meet women where they are and empathize and just send things sometimes to people that I know have lost a child, because that's something that it's not talked about enough, and women kind of struggle with it by themselves a lot, and dads too. They don't know how to grieve for the baby or with the mom, and they do it separately sometimes, and it's really hard to process. And I processed it differently than William, and vice versa. So we really know that side of the story.
William and I actually went to high school together, so it was really cool. And we, through church, really, stayed friends. And honestly, like, we were friends, but we got really close, like, during the surrogacy journey in general. And Olivia was actually a little bit older than us, and so we kind of knew Olivia a little bit. And
then I went to Mason's 10-year class reunion, and I was sitting at the table, and Olivia was across from me, and I said, "So you might be taking care of our baby in a few months." And she looked at me. She's like, "Are you pregnant?" And I'm like, "Yes, like, I'm pregnant." And I had not told any of our friends. And I knew Olivia, but I was not close with Olivia.
Right.
And so I just felt compelled to share this. And I'm a very private person, but it was on my heart to share it with her. Well, then whenever I went into labor, I had my sister there with us too. And I looked at her and I said, I wonder if Olivia's working, because I was at Ochsner and Olivia works there as a nurse. And I was like, I don't even have her number. Can you message her on Facebook? And so she messaged her, and she was actually getting ready to leave. Her shift had ended, and she came into like the triage room to see what was going on. And then we kind of like dumped it on her, but just, hey, this is what's going on. Like, I'm going into labor, because we didn't share with anyone that we found out that our son was terminal. We had only found out 2 days before, and the stress of everything put me into labor naturally. And so Olivia was there, like, when everything started.
And so when Savannah messaged me when I was working at the hospital, my stomach dropped, because I knew there was something wrong. She was 18 weeks pregnant, and she's in triage, which means, you know, they're assessing her pregnancy, and it's kind of an emergency. So I went in there, and they told me what happened and what they're going through, and my heart just spilled open for them. I just grieved for them, and they were really on my heart all through that night and that week, and anything I could do for them, I just wanted to do, you know.
We went to church, I guess it was about 3 weeks after we had Reese, and Olivia came up to us after and said, hey, how are y'all doing? I said, well, as good as we can be with the circumstances. And I said, well, we're actually going to meet with a couple to discuss how to go about surrogacy in Louisiana.
And I've also always wanted to be a surrogate. I knew it was something I would do if I ever got the chance. I would joke about it even a lot with friends, but, you know, just lightheartedly, but never thought it would ever happen. So then when I asked them how they were doing in church, it just, I felt the Holy Spirit really, like God just moved and was like, this is it. This is what's going to happen, with or without William. I'm just kidding. No, this is what's happening. And, this is my plan. And I said, okay, you know, you prepared me for this.
She was like, I'll carry your baby.
Just like
and I looked at her, I said, no, like, I'm being serious. Like, please don't just offer. This is something we're really thinking about. And she said, I am too. Like, I'll carry your baby.
I didn't know anything about surrogacy laws or the way Louisiana runs things when it comes to surrogacy or gestational carriers. I was just in it, you know, for the ride, but I learned a whole lot along the way. So we definitely have a lot of work to do here. And I mean, as a surrogate, you have every right to say, I want to have my privacy. I want to have, like, this is a doctor's appointment. This is, you know, that's a HIPAA violation if, you know, I don't let them have information. But I wanted them to feel like they were as close to carrying the baby as they could. Like, if I was, you know, unable to have a baby, I would want my surrogate to let me be in the room as much as possible, you know, in those visits and know every single detail. So as much as I was comfortable, I let that door open for them, and I'm glad I did, because, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. And that brought us a lot closer. I loved most of it. You know, pregnancy is hard. It was definitely the hardest pregnancy I've had, just because of hormones and IVF. But it was beautiful. Like, I got to share everything with someone who's just as or more excited about it than I was. And everything that happened, I got to have someone to talk to about it and just gush over. And I loved when Savannah could feel the baby move, you know, and it was just so just out of body sometimes, just amazing, magical. We went to church together. I mean, I work every weekend, so it was kind of an every other weekend thing. We got together for dinner a lot. Appointments, they turned into almost every week appointments, so we saw each other quite a bit.
It was totally worth it, you know, for me to be able to support her and grow in our friendship with the Kents. And also really our two older children, they knew really from the beginning, like of her pregnancy, that we were doing this for them. And they understood, I think, very well that this baby was the Kents, and so they knew who the Kents were, and we'd come over here for all the holidays and Christmas, and we'd hang out, and their families would take us in like their own, and so it was a really we grew our extended family out through this process.
Are having
another baby. So we, Olivia, William, myself, and Savannah pretty much spent, it was close to 2 days, right? Yeah, 2 nights. 36 hours.
She was in labor with
together, like in a room together. And then when it got time to where we were very close to delivery, Savannah and I just stepped out of the room for just a second. And literally, we got like a text like, "Y'all come now," and like even
the nurses were hollering down
the
the hallway,
"Go!"
run.
And so, I mean, literally, we're taking off.
Amazing.
We opened the door, and Savannah, which is a really cool part of our story, Savannah actually gowned and gloved up and was able to like deliver like Brooks. So in that moment, I think to me it was like watching a movie, you know, like the adrenaline rush of watching Savannah actually get to deliver and hold Brooks, and in that moment was just completely amazing and really honestly indescribable. And thank God we have footage of it, because it's like that really kind of shows you like our feelings and emotion. We wore it all over our face.
Mason's hands were on his face.
I was like you know, like, oh my gosh, like this is happening.
And he was grinning so big, and so to look up and to see him in that moment as well, it was amazing. And
I think it's fair to say, like, I mean, Olivia, of course, was probably the most exhausted out of all of us, but like 36 hours of being in a room together, and like, I mean, it was just so awesome, like that experience, and like that's something I will never ever forget. So I mean, you know, I'm at the head of the bed with William. I'm in shock basically with everything's happening. Savannah's like got the biggest grin. All I could see was her just smiling and just being so excited about everything. And then, you know, we're all boohooing and crying at the end of it. So it just was a beautiful story, like of it really just selflessness and friendship and blessings. I mean, you know, we couldn't be more thankful for everything our friends have done for us and our family.
It was incredible, like seeing, I mean, our friend deliver our son, and just life coming in, like him breathing and coming into this world. I don't even think there's truly a word to describe it. No. I mean, time stood still. We were all just so present.
I think that's a perfect way of explaining it. Like everything was just kind of, you were just there in a moment, and everything about it was perfect. Yeah. And then seeing him and doing skin to skin with him right away, there was nothing more I ever dreamt of. So, I mean, it just fulfilled everything my heart needed and more.
That was the best part. I mean, if you're gonna be a surrogate, you can't have any percentage whatsoever of doubt that you'll have an emotional attachment to this baby. Emotionally, I guess, but a sadness of any kind. Like, you have to be sure. And there's a tinge of doubt. Like, I felt like I wouldn't have any sadness, but you know, you never know what's gonna happen when it happens. So until it happens. But it was like when he was born, it was better than I thought it would be. Even like 1,000 times better, just because it was actually happening, and it was so magical, like I said, and her face was just lit up, and it was like she became a mom. She was already a mom, but like she was his mom. I'll tell people, I looked at him because they're like, how did you feel, you know, when you saw him? Did you feel like you were attached? I said, I looked at him, I took one look and I said, that's not my baby. I said, that's their baby. Like, you just feel it, you know, it's not something you can explain. But it was fantastic. It was wonderful.
I thought it was a fun time. I mean, I know
it was great.
For you, it was exhausting, and you know, for everybody in the room, but for you especially, and for them to be as dedicated as like anybody else having their own child at the hospital. Like they could have been like, all right, we're gonna go wait in the waiting room. We're gonna go get some rest. Y'all, you know, William, you sleep on that uncomfortable couch, and Olivia, but like no, they wanted to be in it with us, and it was very much a like in it together type of relationship. So it was a really special time, I think.
We went from like just hanging out in groups to fast forward to them literally staying in the same room as us for 36 hours while I'm in labor. So we got really close really fast.
It never felt transactional. It never felt like, it was more or less like we're doing this for them and now we're part of the family, and we are continuing to do so, you know, well over a year later, and in supporting them in their future journeys with the book and other additions to their family. So very exciting.
So we decided to write a story about love, loss, and legacy, and so that book is My Blue Butterfly and Me. And so this book is based on our two boys, so Brooks being our turtle and Reese being our blue butterfly. When we were going out there to try to search for something that one day we could share with our son, like, hey, you had a, you know, older brother, and you do have an older brother. You know, how do we go about talking about that? And so, you know, developing this book was a way for us to do that because we couldn't really find anything like it. And, you know, writing the book, it was you know, healing for both of us, but at the same time, you know, there's so many others around us that have been through something similar like we have, and so we just want to make it easier for them to be able to talk with it among them, you know, among their families.
Right, and we're really truly like wanting to reach people where they are, and that's something when we've spoken with different businesses that wanted to carry our book, we're like, this doesn't just apply to the loss of a child. It could be an aunt, a mother, a father, a grandparent, or even a pet.
Yeah.
Like, we just want to meet and reach children and families exactly where they are in their grief and in their loss. And that's so important to us. And we truly think like our son's legacy is going to make a difference, you know, and we really are going to turn something positive out of our traumatic situation.
You know, one of the sayings in the book is never stop looking for the butterflies of this world. And I think for us, you know, our little butterfly was Reese, but at the same time, you know, Olivia is one of our butterflies too. Like, there's special people out there that will help you in desperate situations, and you know, don't give up hope. Like, don't give up hope and continue to have faith. And you know, we're firm believers that, you know, God provides. And you know, sometimes the story doesn't end the way you thought it would end, but sometimes, you know, the ending can be just the beginning of something really beautiful.